Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us as we celebrate AWA 25. I love looking around and seeing founding members and the next generation and students and recent graduates. So good morning and thank you for being here. My name is Christine Sousa. I am the current president of AWA San Francisco. I work in high-tech sales and also have a small side business that's an event planning company. So I'm particularly enthusiastic about the topics that we'll be covering in this panel. We hope that it will be thought-provoking and inspire fruitful discussion. We wanted to make this panel more of a conversation. So while we do have some formal questions that we'll ask our panelists, we want to leave ample time for Q&A so that there's really good engagement with the panelists and among the audience. So by way of introduction, first we have Nancy Simonian, who is a trained physician, but also a current CEO of a biotech company. Mary Lou Papazian, who is remarkable. She currently runs the TUMO Center, but she's also the mother to 5 and someone who everyone, I think, looks up to globally because of her diverse background and having lived in so many countries. We have Lili Tianokian, who is a coder at Netflix and a new mom for the second time. She has a 4-month-old who she brought with her. So talk about inspiring the future. Catherine Sarafian, who spoke yesterday and is a VP at Pixar. And Susanna Khachaturian, who is on the board of AWA San Francisco and also an amazing engineer at IBM. So all their... You can read all their bios and get a little bit more depth and breadth on what they've done and what they're doing, but we're just going to kick it off with all the questions. So, technology has completely changed everything about everyone's life. From the way we interact, from the way we perceive each other, from the way we interact and include each other. And it also has some not so awesome characteristics that could be dangerous. So we're really going to try to push the envelope across both the positive and the sometimes dangerous parts of technology. But to kick things off, I wanted to ask Nancy, given your background as a physician, and not necessarily a traditional technologist when we think about computer science and coding and programming and engineering, how do you use technology and how have you kind of become a technologist in your current role?
Great. So can you guys hear me okay? Yes. No? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to start to talk loud. I have a pretty loud voice. Okay, good. So the way that I use technology, so first of all, as you heard, I trained as a physician, and I don't really think about being as a physician being so much as a technologist. We're taught to, diagnose patients, talk to them about their symptoms, and use back when I went to medical schools, I'd say some pretty rudimentary technologies to actually figure out what was wrong with patients. I think what's so exciting today is that we now have much more sophisticated ways to understand disease. We can understand it not just by looking under a microscope or by palpating something under your skin, but actually we can get the molecular basis for what's underlying a patient's disease. And that's led us to now the ability to identify specifically in each of you what is underlying your disease and then figuring out the best ways to treat it. So from my standpoint as working in biotechnology, but I'd even say today for physicians today, it's really all around that molecular understanding of disease. And what's been really interesting is obviously there's so much information and data associated with that. And it's hard for any individual today, any physician today to really keep up with all that. I'm sure for any of you that have had your own either diseases or friends, and you become the expert in that, and you go in to see your physician, and oftentimes you actually have more information at your fingertips than they do. And I think that's really led to this need for us to figure out as a medical community how can we digest all of that information and better use that to figure out how to treat our patients. But I think it's a really exciting era for all of us in terms of human health, to really make a difference in treating and helping people live long and better lives.
Beautiful, thank you. To Catherine, how do you see technology impacting the lives in the future? Certainly, a lot of the stories that you've been a part of have come into everyone's home and have impact in that storytelling realm. How do you see technology continuing to impact that?
Well, what's cool about technology and storytelling is that I don't see barriers anymore to getting a story out there. So if you have a story to tell, and everybody has a story to tell, but it used to be, well, write it down. Okay, well, first, in olden times, it was like the storytelling tradition from cave paintings, to fireside chats, and all through the years, and radio. And every new level of technology has increased the reach and the ability, for a storyteller to get the word out. But now, if I talk to young people who are like, well, I don't know, I'll never get distribution, like, put it on YouTube. You can put your work out there. And so for me, it's all about reach, whether it's on. And I used to be very precious as a filmmaker about, I went to film school and everything had to be just so, and it had to be beautiful and huge on the big screen. And now obviously my kids are like watching whichever cartoon on the phone, on the iPhone. And I used to be like, the integrity of this piece of art you're seeing, it's been, completely compromised in the small format. And how can you do that? And then I look over, I'm like, they can hear it, they can see it, they're laughing. I'm like, what, it works at this point. So whatever means to get the storytelling out there, I think that's great, because more storytelling and more stories with farther reach, whether it's in your headset or on your VR or in your hologram headset that just showed up in my house. Now there's a hologram thing in my house. I don't know. Or all the ways that people can create their own work and put it out there without all the money and resources of a big company now. It just means more stories in the world, and more stories in the world from sources, whether people have money or resources or not, they can get their stories out there. I think that's the most important thing, because it's only through these stories, I do believe movies and all these stories are meant to expand our views of the world and our empathy for each other and human understanding. And I see all upside there, in terms of reach and people we've never heard from in our lives. We'll know their stories and hear their perspectives because we can get to it.
I mean, I have young children and they watch all sorts of peculiar things on YouTube, from random middle-aged men opening Play-Doh, which apparently is very entertaining.
Opening stuff online is a big deal. It's like box.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
But
toy unboxing. My 4-year-old likes to watch toys being unboxed. Yeah. Toys that he will never own, but they're being opened, and he's like, "I like that." I'm like, "I don't have to go buy it for you. You're going to watch this other kid enjoy it, and you are okay with that." So okay.
To Lilith, within Netflix, part of your role is making sure I want it, and I want it now, and I'm going to watch the show I want to watch the second I want to watch it, and maybe it's on my iPhone, and maybe it's on my iPad, and maybe it's while I'm on a train. Can you speak a little bit about that role within how you navigate all your responsibilities and make sure we get our content quickly?
So the delivery of technology has obviously changed, and you expect it now. You expect what you want to watch to be able to do it right now, and technology is evolving. So if it was just TVs, now it's phones, now it's even, for some providers, you can even download and watch it offline. And the way the infrastructure behind it is evolved is that we get signals whenever there are any changes. Whenever it fails to load for you, for 10 of you or 20 of you, somebody at Netflix will know. And they will find the person responsible that made that code change, and they will call you at 2 a.m. So so you make the change, you push the change to everyone so that there is a smooth experience and no downtime. That's our goal.
Thank you.
Thank you. So to Mary Lou, you have lived in, I think, 4 countries. You've delivered all your children in Barcelona. You've escaped civil war in Lebanon. I'd love your perspective on how you manage those dual identities or multi-identities, I guess in your case, and yet still raise a very traditional household.
I guess I was lucky, but the fact that I lived in so many countries, Lebanon, I was born in Egypt, raised in Lebanon, moved to the US, New York, Boston, and then went to Barcelona and then LA, and now for 12 years in Armenia. When you have all these opportunities, you absorb a lot, and you're like obsessed at the end to bring the best of everything you have seen to Armenia. There's an obsession, really. I want this from Barcelona, this from New York. Yes. And I really like technology. I love technology because I feel like it's the opportunity, we have to grab the opportunity of what technology is offering to make Armenia and the Armenian community and Armenians in the diaspora live a better life. And this is our opportunity now. And there are so many resources, so many great ideas that we can incorporate and we can implement, that it's a big chance. It's like this is our opportunity and we have to grab it. So yes, my kids always make fun of me of how I use technology. You know, you text us like you're writing an email, and you don't know how to do Snapchat. I don't get it. Like, why do you have to do something that will disappear in 2 minutes? You don't get it. But I love it, and I think that it's our opportunity to use technology to build a better Armenian community and to communicate between us better and to be closer to each one of us. And I guess, yes, there is a dual identity. There is one side that you're a human being, you have opportunities, you can do so much, and then on the other side, you're Armenian. When you get to balance all this, you are even more, you're luckier actually, because you have the best of both worlds. You are an Armenian and you feel comfortable, and at the same time, you can enjoy what you're doing, and you're doing it well, and you're combining this two. You're even richer actually than anybody else. So I think we're very lucky to have this dual identity, and to balance it and to feel comfortable in what you are, and to make the best of it is, in my opinion, the nicest thing we have.
Thank you. Susanna, you have been at IBM for a very long time throughout your career, and during your time there, you have insight into business analytics, storage, commerce, data, IT infrastructure, sort of the back of the house stuff that happens. But you manage people, you manage men, you report to men, and you have a ton of invention disclosures, which I think is cool. As an Armenian woman leader within a very male-dominated industry and a more mature IT brand, what words of wisdom do you have? How do you kind of navigate through being at the same tech company but doing a ton of different things?
Great question. Thank you. So yeah, as you said, I've been with IBM almost 18 years. I started my career as a software engineer, and I loved writing code, and I wrote a couple invention disclosures, which are patents. And then after 6-7 years, I realized that, I can do even bigger things, especially after I got my master's degree from Carnegie Mellon. They teach lots of leadership skills, and which I didn't have before as an engineer developer. And I realized that I can really go and expand and do something different. So I decided to take risks. From engineering, I moved to the research. and I manage basically internship program, IBM's premier internship program, which is called Extreme Blue. And I've done that for 4 years. That was like running my own startup for 4 years. I had to get the funding, I had to go interview students, I had to find the coolest, brightest projects that the students had to write from the beginning to end in 12 weeks, and we would fly to New York headquarters and showcase to our executives. So IBM is a huge company, 500,000 employees worldwide, including contractors. It can be a city. And to navigate through that, I think the important thing is obviously building your network, making sure that you never give up. Whatever you want to achieve, maybe one way doesn't going to go through, try some other ways. And I have a funny story to tell about that. When I was at IMS, which is IBM's mainframe hierarchical database, which basically runs lots of applications. You go to ATM, you take money out of it, it is on IMS. You make airline reservation, it's still on mainframes. Basically, it's all mission critical applications. And obviously for that, as a manager, I had to be an advocate, customer advocate. So I was customer advocate for one of the top banks in US. I cannot name it, but I guess you can guess. So, and I had the best relationship with this person. And one day, randomly, he calls me and says, Susanna, I need to ask you for a favor. I said, sure, anything. I thought they are going to say, the system is down. Can you please fix it? And I said, there is this big conference in Las Vegas. So every year IBM does this big conference. Now it's called World of Watson. Before it was Inside. So back then it was Inside a couple years ago. And I know Serena Williams is coming to be one of the speakers. And can you get 2 VIP tickets for me and my friend to go there? So I am an engineering manager, right? I have nothing to do. That year I wasn't even going to the conference, but I felt like that's kind of challenge for me. If I can get those 2 tickets for him in 2 days, that means I can do anything in this company. So I went right away. I said, okay, where should I start? I don't know. It's a huge company. How to navigate? I said, okay, let me go ask our marketing lady. She should know, right? So I asked her. She said, you know what? Go ask her. Why are you doing that? That's extra work headache. Don't do it. Go talk to client rep, because each big companies, they have client reps who are responsible this kind of thing. I said, no, this is my personal interest to make this happen. I'm going to find out who can give me these VIP tickets. And then I said, okay, let me go ask our product manager. So I went to my product manager, said, do you know who is running this conference? Yeah, ask this guy. He knows everything. And that was true. I asked this guy. Immediately he told me who is running the conference. I sent a nice quick note saying, our top customer for IMS interested to get 2 tickets. Can you please secure for me? She said, sure, I can give you 3. So that was like something like eye-opener for me 3 years ago. After that, I feel like my confidence level grew so high, knowing that you can navigate through any company as long as you never give up and you do your best. Obviously, never burn your bridges, and also make sure you keep your network. That's the best story.
That's an awesome story. And I always tell my team, you have to go the extra mile. You have to do something that's just a little bit unexpected, dazzle them. I think Linda called this going beyond the contract, which was the example she used for the Indian outsourcing company. So I think that's a beautiful story of how all those things played so well and also showcased your leadership as well. So that's a beautiful story. Switching gears just a little bit, I want to ask Nancy just from a medical perspective, and then I'll ask the same question to Mary Lou from a technology education perspective. When we think about technology and how we engage with it from a young age in terms of neurological development, perception as you move from being a child to maybe your puberty years, and there's a lot of bullying, identity questions, and issues. How do you advise or guide from a medical perspective the healthiest ways to use technology and think about it?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think that there's so many positive things from technology, as kids are, growing and developing, and what they're exposed to that's so different than what we had when we were growing up. So I think there's a tremendous things there. You've probably read a lot of, recent data coming out about the teenage brain and the fact that, teenagers continue to develop all the way through into their 20s. And I think all of us that have teenagers can completely relate to that. And so I think it's a real balance to try to figure out how to use technology sort of appropriately. And I think, to me, it all comes back to just some sort of those fundamental values that I think are important as we raise our children about what kind of people do you want to be, and how do you want to treat others? How do you want to contribute in the world? And I think that, the conversations that I have with my kids aren't around like, don't go on this side or don't do that, because I think I will never win that battle. And it's really around just, those fundamental questions. And those are the questions. I have 2 teenage boys that I have with them all the time. And I just sent one off to college, which is, being kind and considerate to other people at all times, thinking about what you can do to help others in the world because you're so fortunate, and just coming back to those key things, I think is more important than any rules that we're going to write about what people are going to do on their technologic devices. So I guess that's the approach from a mother and a medical standpoint that I take.
And so kind of the same question to Mary Lou, but maybe with a slightly different pivot. You've raised your children in various parts of the world at different points in their lives. How do you teach your children sort of street smarts when the streets are all kind of fiber optic cables? And what's that balance to, you don't say, okay, don't climb that tree because if you climb it, you're going to fall, right? Go climb the tree and then fall, and then know that you shouldn't do that again. So again, sort of that dangerous good part of technology.
For our kids, it has been from day one, we gave them all kind of liberties. We really trusted, and we made sure that they know that we have their trust. And to keep a conversation open all the time is the most important part of it. They have to know that if anything happens, they can rely on you, they can come back to you. We have no secrets between us. And to build an atmosphere like that is very important. But it becomes harder when we're talking about 10,000 students in Armenia. I'm in charge of 10,000 students, and I'm in charge of giving them all the freedom. It's different when we're talking about my kids. It's different when we're talking about other people's kids. And the fact that I want them to have the same options like my kids, and trust them, and give them the liberty to do anything they want, and to come back to us at TUMO and us helping them. It's a different ballgame, and it's difficult because we're talking about different backgrounds, different families, different problems, distance, opportunities. Sometimes when you give a lot of freedom, you realize that you didn't know anything about this person, and things can go wrong. But we have been very lucky in Armenia. At the beginning, parents were a little bit doubtful. They were all concerned. These Americans coming, what do they want? Are they going to pick the best brains and use them? And things like that. But slowly we were able to build a trust between us and the parents. And a lot of parents still come back and say, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Well, how we see a big change in our kids. What's happening? So it's a journey, and yes, we have sometimes problems. I don't want to paint everything in pink and say there are no problems. It happens. Lately, a small problem happened. Like our students come to TUMO and they can sit wherever they want. So apparently there was one kid with a phone, and another kid took the phone from this person and started sending messages to the mother and and using the kid's identity and telling her very bad words. You know, it's like, I couldn't imagine it. Like, why would you do that? And then, of course, the mother went crazy, started calling us, what is happening? What have you done? And we found out what happened, and we called the parents, both parents, and we explained. And good enough, the mother was really able to understand that these things happen. The beauty of Tumo is that you can sit wherever you want. Of course, you will meet people who can do things, and we have to manage. And I was afraid that she will take her son out of Tumo. She didn't, and she continued. He's still a student at Tumo, and the student apologized to the mother. And things happen, yes, but we learn from those incidents, and the most important is to make sure that they have all our trust and they can rely on us, and we are there we are always there for them, and to make sure that the most important goal we all have is for them to learn and to be better citizens.
Thank you. Lilit, you're a big advocate for young women in technology. You participate in a lot of different women's leadership seminars and speaking engagement. You're raising children. What advice or guidance would you give your 20-year-old self about career development, career progression, things around those topics?
So I didn't think there was a bias against women for a long time. I was, although I was the only engineer on the team for most of my career, I said, sure, I can watch Star Wars. I can talk the same language as the guys. It's okay. But then when I had my daughter and I went to work just a few weeks after, then I saw how difficult and challenging things that were given to me and were pretty easy started to be. So at that point, I decided that I should aid young women, encourage them to pursue the careers in tech so that our ranks are not so thin. And especially for the moms who, there are, I don't know the percentage, but I'm sure it's more than half. When women who are successful in their careers, they love their jobs in tech, they have children, they suddenly drop out of the workforce. And the issue with that is it is hard to compete with the 25-year-old guys who do not have any commitments, and you have so much. If you're a new mom and you're breastfeeding, you have to take pumping breaks and do that at work. And then you need to go and pick up your kid from daycare on time. Nothing can wait for that. And then I saw that I cannot attend 5 p.m. meetings. So I was pretty straightforward with my manager, saying that if you want me to be there, please do schedule the meetings on time before 5 p.m. And most of the time it works, but sometimes if there is a higher up meeting or there is an emergency, of course, that doesn't work. And in that case, the best thing is to have your support system. For me, it's my husband. He is also in technology, and we can manage. He can take time off and go home sooner, pick up my daughter, so that there is coverage in the childcare. And as a younger women, yes, we do need more women in technology. It is great. They should not be scared of technology because you see that you're the only kid, only woman, only girl in the computer science class, or later in school, you are the only one in the class. And as of my 20-year-old self-advised, I think I would have told myself to not to worry as much. I was very competitive. I wanted to get to the best of my career as soon as possible. But of course, there are setbacks in life. Of course, things happen. You have kids. You take some time off. I'm still on maternity leave, although I'm going back to work. And to say that it doesn't set back your career, it's not true. Because if there is a promotion and you're on maternity leave, somebody else is going to get it. There is no way that you're going to be given it. So yeah, take it easy. And to younger women and to moms, yeah, there are some really great programs in Silicon Valley, and I see the development of it all through the United States, where there is encouragement. There are back-to-school classes. There are mother coders, girls who code, gig girls. There is a variety of organizations and support networks to do that. Oh, one more thing. So one of the great things about Armenia was that I did my bachelor's in Yerevan State University, and I came for my master's to University of Michigan. And in my class in Yerevan, there were 30% women, where I have been the only one for 90% of the classes here. So it's great. Wow. Yeah.
I think you brought up a beautiful point about supportive men. And so this is a women's organization. There's very few men in this audience, but I did want to take a moment to acknowledge, the grandfathers, the fathers, the uncles, the cousins, the dads, the kind of all the men who always encourage, support. My husband is not here because he's with the girls. And so, I think it takes a lot, and we talk about a lot of women's topics, and of course that's the focus of this weekend, but we have to acknowledge and embrace and hug all the men too. So to Susanna, we've talked a lot about technology and technology, chicks who code and things like that. I'm always the only girl, and I'm in tech sales. So as I look at the younger generation, can you help define maybe technology outside of your traditional kind of engineering role, and how you see a broader definition of technology?
Absolutely, yeah. Exactly. I think, sorry, the technology can be everything, right? For example, right now, I am a manager. I don't write code, but I am around technology, right? You can be in marketing, in software company, it's around technology. So I would say people, the younger generation who want to go in technology, but maybe they are afraid to write a code, there are lots of jobs around technology which is still high payable, and they should explore. Another thing which I would highly recommend a younger generation, as Lily mentioned, there are lots of programs starting from K to 12, middle school kids and girls who code in high school. There are lots of opportunities for younger generation to take different classes. Like, for example, my son, he's interested in engineering. So there is a 4-year project Lead the Way program in high school, and they teach engineering. Every year, different things. One year, they do pure electrical engineering. The next year, they do pure programming. And that's a very, very good way for the children to try and see if something they are interested. There are also lots of great summer programs, which is like 2 weeks programs in community colleges, like STEM programs. My son did that last summer. They do just pure fun programming, creating HTML pages with style sheets, or they do Java programming. And those summer programs, the good things, they don't get graded. So it's pure fun. Go get your hands dirty, learn something, and then you will figure out. You might not like to write Java coding, but maybe you like to do HTML. Or maybe you like to go and present. Someone writes a code and you present. Or you are in sales. You are around technology every day, right? So I would encourage younger generation, don't think about technology, just pure engineering or hardware or software, etc. There are lots of things around it. So they should explore that.
Both to Nancy and Catherine, I know, Catherine, you spoke about this a little bit yesterday, so it might be a little bit redundant, or maybe you have a pivot, but about career progression and how it's not linear. There's a lot of different examples of breaking the glass ceiling, or maybe I think the new one is it's a playground where it's the linear transition. You try different things in your career, but I'd love for you to share a little bit about your career progression and different forks in the road.
So yeah, if you asked if I thought back when I was in high school or college, would I ever be doing what I am today? I would never in 1,000 years have thought that I would be, a CEO of a biotech company. So I think but what I really did along the way was tried to follow what I really loved doing. When I was in high school, I really loved science, and so I decided that I wanted to use that in a medical field. And I really thought that was the only way to sort of apply my interest in science and medicine was to be a doctor. I really unexpectedly, after I trained and I did my internship and residency and was now a faculty member in Boston here, realized that it wasn't what I thought that I wanted to do. Even though I wasn't unhappy, it didn't seem like that it was fulfilling me in the way that I thought it would. And I had trained as a neurologist, and I was basically, it was research-wise, it was fascinating. I was able to diagnose patients with degenerative diseases, but I was not able to do anything for them because we didn't have any therapies. And it struck me that what I really wanted to do was to try to actually make a big impact in some of these diseases. And as a physician, you have an impact on an individual patient, which is great, but I realized that actually there was something more that I wanted, but I didn't know what it was. And just by serendipity, learned about an opportunity at a biotech company. This is back in 1995. That was Biogen. For those of you that live in the Boston area, it's now one of the major biotech companies that really has helped MS patients in a very significant way. And what happened was I took a risk at just even going to look at that opportunity. And I didn't know anything about it. And at the time that I looked at that opportunity, and they had gotten data with their first drug to slow disability progression for MS patients. And I was a neurologist, and I was going to be the first neurologist there. I spoke to the head of my department. I was at Mass General, who told me I was going to ruin my career. And I talked to my parents, and they said, we thought you were going to be a doctor. Like, how can you, So I got basically from a lot of the people that, were like my role models, I got this, you're not doing what I thought you should be doing, because I thought you should be doing what I'm doing. And no one asked me at that time, what is it that's important to you? And so I felt like what I did was I jumped, the analogy was like jumping off a cliff, because I thought I'm taking a huge risk. I have no idea. I may be giving up all this stuff that I thought I was going to do. And it was like the absolute best thing I ever did. It was the most challenging thing and the best thing that I did. And subsequently I made another major career transition. So I was in biotech for 15 years, and I was running, the clinical medical side. And I decided, you know what, I actually want to run my own company. And I'd never done it before. And so about 4 years ago, I left what I was doing before, again, just took another big fork in the road and said, you know what, and I kept telling myself, what's the worst that could happen? Like, maybe I'll fail. So what? If I don't try, I'm actually never going to really challenge myself. And so I think I realized that what holds a lot of people back in terms of their career is the concern about risk and failure. And I think actually women more so than men, my sense is that holds them back. And so for me, my career path, why it partly wasn't linear, is because I felt like I just took a lot of risk and challenge to do something different. And it's incredibly rewarding. And I think that I would just encourage, and I try to do that as much as I can with women, to do that more in their careers and their lives, because it's, I think otherwise we often get on a path that's not as fulfilling as we'd like. And you have to kind of follow and I guess I come back to just follow your gut. Like, every day, are you getting out of bed and excited about what you do? And when you're not, then you should really think about doing something else and trying.
We have these conversations with other working moms, and we took a parenting class and whatever. And so all the moms go around and they say, I want my kid to be happy. Okay, awesome. Came to me and I'm like, happy? I don't care if my kid's happy. I don't care. I want them to be at peace with the decisions that they make, because they're happy, then they're mad, then they're angry, then they're emotional, then they're laying on the floor. I said, oh, you're not happy right now. I don't care. It's too stressful. So I really appreciate that you recognized different decisions and were really at peace with the choices that you made, despite the risks associated with them. So good job. Catherine,
Right.
anything to add?
It's such a great question, and Nancy's answer triggered all this stuff. But one thing Susanna mentioned was about how there's so many inroads to tech, and I was coming out of undergrad as a writer, feeling like I knew I wanted to work in show business, but I was a writer, and I'm not going to work for a newspaper. And I really considered technical writing. So it's another thing. It's like you wouldn't believe the number of jobs there are in tech for non-coders, and you wouldn't believe the number of jobs there are in tech for coders who are female. So this is a great time. It's a great time to be a girl who wants to code, because you're being invited by the world, by the president of the United States, by Michelle Obama, the world is saying, please, code if you're a girl, and we'll have jobs for you, high-paying jobs. So, this is a good time to lean into that. But I think just in terms of a nonlinear path, and I get approached by a lot of young people who are like, well, what is the path? What is the path? And it may look like there's a recipe and it may look like there's a formula, but the truth of the matter is, to Nancy's point, if you're going, if you are pursuing things that even your closest mentors and naysayers think are telling you to your face look like a bad idea, but there's something in you telling you, you need to do it. You know yourself better than your close mentors know you in most cases. Not in every case. Some people are blind to themselves, but in most cases, there's something in you should listen to. And there's so little in life that's irreversible. When it comes to career, if it doesn't work, you can make a change, especially if you're smart and active and taking an active role in your career. I get concerned when young people come and say, well, I don't know if I take this job, then I'll be stuck in it forever. I'm like, you're not stuck. You have choices, right? And I think, the choices you make, coming at career like I'm a victim of whatever job I get is setting you on the road for failure, right? If you approach your career as you're a victim of your circumstances, you will never progress through it. We heard so much yesterday also about choices people make and the active role they played in their careers, saying what they wanted, asking for it, and not just waiting for opportunities to land on their laps. But like Sona was saying, like, oh yeah, I'll go work as Conan's assistant, and she just sort of said that, and made it so for herself. But what you put out there in the world, it matters as a message to the world and to yourself. But I think that one of the things that I was least excited to do along the way, the two things I was least excited to do along the way in my career, one is I worked in public relations for a video game company for a short time, and I knew nothing about public relations, but the video game part of it, I wanted to get my feet wet in computer entertainment. But the public relations part of it, it just spoke to nothing in me about, it was like I was a writer and I had phone skills, I could do it, and I was competent and good at it, but boy, did I not enjoy it. And a few years later, even though I was in film production at Pixar years later, I was asked to run marketing and PR at Pixar. I'm like, oh, geez, PR again. And unfortunately, I couldn't say I don't know anything about PR because I had done this stint in PR. And unfortunately, I couldn't say I didn't know anything about marketing because, again, I had by then some experience that I didn't want in marketing. But that time, I know, as many know, I worked under Steve Jobs during that time, and I didn't want to work under Steve. I didn't want any of this stuff. And it was some of the actually most frustrating and most rewarding time in my life because I was exhausted. I was fairly unhappy. I did really good work and I had a great boss and Steve was fantastic and I learned a ton from him. But years later, and by then it's almost 2012 and I'm finishing Brave and coming through it and I've just had 2 small kids and I lost my dad all over the course of making this movie. And it wasn't until then that I connected all the dots of this sort of nonlinear progression of the path that's like, wow, thank God I worked in marketing. Steve's gone now, and I know what to do with this movie. Thank God I worked in PR. I know how to close out this movie. I know how to, produce the end of this movie, which was so heavy on marketing, PR, consumer products, all this stuff I hated doing and learned and didn't know it was going to factor in so prominently. It made me the producer that I am, and it made me the executive that I became. And you just don't know how these things are going to play in. But overall, my rule of thumb. has been throughout it, whether the job felt like the right one or not, the right choice of the things you do. Follow the good people, like work for people who are good and nice and good to you. But, because if you work for a jerk, again, you have choices, right? If you can work for a jerk, the choice is don't work for a jerk, or if you work for a jerk, learn everything you can quickly and then get out, right? Because, it's from the jerks, right? It's from the bad experiences.
So two more formal questions, and this next one will make more of a conversation. We all had breakfast together and had quite a long dialogue of being Armenian working mothers in different phases of motherhood and career. So, Nancy just sent her first son to college. Mary Lou's got kids all over the place from still in elementary school. Sanahin is still in elementary school, right? To postgraduate. Lily has 2 young kids. Catherine has 2 young kids, and Susanna is getting ready to send her son off to college. And one of the things we talked about in the construct of this conversation and this weekend-long conversation is how do you include your children in the professional aspects of your life so that they are part of the conversation, so that they see, why you're stressed out after a not so awesome meeting. For me, it's my kids know when it's quarter end. I think yesterday was quarter end, so people would see me running in and out of the door. That's the way things are, braided. And so would love just sort of quick perspective on that from everyone on the panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of stories to tell. At some point, we realized, Pegor and I, that if we don't include them, because we're always late going back home, we're always traveling, we always are worried about our deadlines. If we don't include our kids in what we're doing, we're going to create a gap and the distance. So we started including them in everything we're doing. And when I say that, we really took that seriously. Like if we're traveling, whenever we can, we take one of them with us. And so, for example, I went to France to an animation and cartoon festival, and I took Sanahin. And I went to a meeting to meet with the rector of a university, and she was with me. She was back then, I think, 10-year-old. And the director looked at me like, you brought your daughter? And I said, yes, she's into drawing and she loves it and she will be quiet. So it was like a best experience for her to listen to everything we were discussing, to see how things work, to go around, to meet with people, to go to the festival. She keeps repeating, we have to go back to France. And of course, we went also shopping, and she had a great time. And then sometimes you take them to things that you don't know what's going to happen, and it turns out like maybe it wasn't a good decision. But I took her to a meeting, to a dinner, thinking that it will be great, but it turned out that the person I was meeting was really nasty and horrible. Like I couldn't deal with her, with the person. And my daughter was there. She was listening. And I was all the time very worried, like, she's looking at me, judging me, listening. And I was worried that what's going to happen. But the fact that I was very calm and I took it calmly, and I was managing well. And at the end of the dinner, when we left, she kept telling me, if I were you, I would stand up, I would leave the dinner. What were you talking about? You're crazy. Why did you have to take all this on you? Are you stupid? And I kept telling her, this happens and you have to deal with it. This is how some people, you're not expecting what's happening. You have to manage. You have to set your goals. What is the most important, your feelings or what you want? And And it was a great experience. I realized that I don't want to paint everything that it's amazing. Things are very good. My days are always full of happy things. Sometimes it's very difficult, and you have to deal with it. And she understood it, and it was an amazing experience. So yes, it is difficult, but in some cases, we take our kids out of school. In Armenia, I guess you can do it. I don't know. We write a letter to the principal saying that this is also educational. It is important for them. We don't do it every day, once a year or once every 2 years, but we do it, and it turned out to be very, very good for them, I think, to involve them, because they started understanding, and now they're part of it. My kids, all 5, are part of everything we do. They criticize, they make decisions with us. We share a lot of information with them. They're part of all the decisions we make, and it has been very supportive. When Christine was saying about the dads and the uncles and everybody, I think our kids are part of that support system. They have been great all the way, supporting, encouraging us, and being part of everything we have been doing.
Thank you. Nancy, do you want to?
Sure, I'll add a couple things. In the nature of my job, I wish I could include my kids a lot more like you do. That sounds like a lot of fun. But when they were young, I certainly tried to include them, bring them on trips, and include them in things at work. What's been really interesting is they've gotten older, and they're both teenagers now. A few years ago, before I decided to take the CEO job, I decided to take some time off and think about what I wanted to do next, which was a wonderful opportunity. I'd highly recommend it to folks. And my younger son said, Mom, you're home, because I had never, I'd always been working. And he's like, I really see you like you're very different than the other moms that I know, because you work and you actually have a really great career. And I really hope that you go back, because that's how I see you. And I think that's really important for our family. And I thought that was really amazing, because what I'm really hoping, and I have 2 boys, is that they grow older and they think about getting married in their lives, that they're going to be looking to have partners as women like me. I feel like that, like for me, if that's what I can impart to my boys, then I think we're going to be better as the next generation. And I don't think that we've seen that enough. And so his comment to me about that meant that he really got that. And the only other quick thing I'll say is a couple months ago, I took my company public. And so the IPO process is a very stressful process. I was on the road for 2 weeks, and partway through our IPO, if you remember, there was the Brexit vote, and the markets kind of went really down, and it wasn't clear we were going to get out. So my son was calling me every day, wherever the city is, and just saying, Mom, how's the IPO going? Do you think you're still going to be able to get it done? And so he was following it really closely. And that kind of experience for us together was just a really wonderful thing. So he got it and was really supportive. And so I actually, his support, and both my boys' support of what I'm doing, has been really critical for me to continue to do what I'm doing.
I have a short story. So my son is also 18. I've been taking him when he was a kid to IBM, like bring your kid to school day. To work day. And I wouldn't say that, he'll obviously, he knows the technology. He sees dad, mom, always on technology. But I want to share another interesting story. Since I joined Iowa 5 years ago as an executive member, San Francisco, I've been taking him to our events, and he's been helping and volunteering. And the last December, it was an amazing event. Thanks to Christine, we did a December Bloomingdale's event, and we brought a couple high school kids, our kids, like executive member kids, and my son was one of them. And he loved it. He went to all the cashiers and asking for receipt. I think he got one $10,000 like product suit receipt.
Louis Vuitton.
Louis Vuitton suit receipt. So he was so excited. And I think that kind of things, it doesn't have to be part, whatever you do, whether you are doing volunteering or you are going to work, if you can engage your son in these kind of activities or daughter at early age, I think it's very beneficial.
Catherine Levitt.
Yeah. Well, I guess they want to keep going. Yeah, I mean, my eyes have been open this morning at our breakfast about hearing stories about involving their kids in work, because I think I've made some mistakes there. The first thing, though, about the role modeling, a lot of the moms, talk about how we want our sons, our daughters to, see that their moms are working and have careers and be involved in that. And I would say equally important in my family has been that my sons see their father as a role model of somebody who does pickups, does drop-offs, gets you to the lessons and is fully supportive of the career. And then when I travel, my sons see my mother-in-law coming and like living at the house and putting in tons of time to make sure that I can be traveling. So having the boys see that this is the network that makes it so that they can have what they have, I think is so crucial. But yeah, I think that my sons have my sweet darlings, 4 and 7, have right now a healthy sense of entitlement around like, yeah, mommy's job is fun and it's always good things, because I think out of my own guilt at not being home very much, I've gone out of my way to make the Pixar experience seem like it's like Disneyland every day, and we get into Disneyland free. And when you come to Pixar, we have free cereal, and they're the sugary cereals that we don't buy at home. So you get some cereal. And then last Friday, actually, my office had this huge battle of the bands. I swear it's not like this every day, but on this day, we have this thing called Pixar Palooza. It's every 2 years. It's this massive music festival, and its employee bands are competing against each other for prizes. There's this massive rock concert, and there's kettle corn, and there's churros, and there's hot dogs, and it's free. And I mean, it's this massive thing that you would think like, you work here? And of course, I'm like, yes, I'm bringing the kids because it's a fun Pixar thing. And then then I came to notice listening to Mary Lou and everybody was like, I'm only exposing them to fun, happy Pixar things so that they think mommy's job is so fun and cool. But then I come home tired after a hard day, and it's like, Mommy, why are you so frustrated? And then they also have the little sense of entitlement about what goes in the movies. My little one, he literally asked me, last week, Mommy, I would like a blue car with a spoiler in Cars 3, so please go do that. I'm not going to go add a blue car with a spoiler to Cars 3. Number one, that is not exactly what my job is. And number two, no. I mean, what do you think this is? So I think I might have given them a slightly skewed perspective on the working life. But I've learned a lot this morning about how best to involve them. And I did invite Avadis, my 7-year-old. I said, you want to come to the office with Mommy today? And you can draw, because we draw at work. And he's like, well, what else will we do? I'm like, well, we go to meetings and you can listen. And even as I said it, it started sounding boring, and I was worried about disappointing him, and I didn't bring him. So I've learned something today. I will fire up, and I will do better. So thank you.
Lilith, anything to add?
So my kids are pretty young. My daughter is 2 years old now, but she has been to 4 professional conferences.
Is this 5 or 4?
This is 4. Yeah, she has flown with us, and since I don't have mother-in-law and mom, people other than my husband, he has flown with me as well. And yeah, sometimes there were daycare on site, or other times, like right now, he's taking care of both of the kids. So she's exposed to this, but they are too young to understand, but they will soon. The other thing that she's involved in is whenever I have a new release, I work on designing the mobile applications for Netflix, which is Windows, Android, iOS. So whenever we have a new release, I have her test it. So she's she's watching Peppa Pig. You do. And whenever there is a failure, she comes and says, "Mama, look." So she knows something's wrong.
There's your user experience.
Yeah. One of the other things I wanted to bring up is today during breakfast, Mary Lou said that her kids didn't think she was cool. But they do now. So that was my scenario. My mom changed her career around age of 40. And she went from science, she was a physicist, to business world. And then she ended up achieving high positions. She was the CEO of Pepsi-Cola Armenia. But I didn't think she was cool until my friends told me about it. And I was at least 20 when I first learned it. So, ladies, you are awesome. You are very cool. This panel is amazing. I mean, Catherine and Susanna and Mary Lou and Nancy, everyone, and all of you working moms. And if it doesn't seem that your kids grasp it yet, believe me, they will soon. Just tell their friends or show, they will realize.
I want to take the opportunity to say that my son, number 3, the middle one, is here. Maybe we can ask him about what he thinks.
Identify yourself. There he is. Yeah, they were both together.
Uncool. Yeah, I think when we were younger and both my dad and my mom would come home pretty late, we thought, okay, this is not great. We'd like them to be home more, but as we developed and as we understood, they explained it to us. And as they would take us on their business trips, we realized they're actually doing something very cool. They're trying to help Armenia. And that sense of what we understood evolved, and we realized that they are cool. And I think right now, even as they discuss these things at home, we try to get involved, and we realize that they are hard decisions, and we try to help them as much as we can. And we love that they involve us because we get the experience and we know what it's like going into the professional world. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, but I think they made all the right choices, and everyone should move to Armenia. And if she hasn't convinced you yet, she'll spend the next few days trying to.
Thank you. So, last question, and then we'll open it up to the Q&A. And in this one, I would like both the panelists to respond, but also encourage the audience to think of how you would answer this question and, really kind of internalize what it means for you. So, if you were to rate from 1 to 10, we'll make 10 the best, the cards that you were dealt in life, how would you rate those cards? And as a follow-up to that, how do you think that you played the cards that you were dealt? Who wants to go first?
Can you hear me? Okay, I'll go next first because I had some chance to think about this question. It's a great question. So, the cards I've been dealt in life, I'd say 6 out of 10. And how I played them, I'd say 9 from 10. And I want to elaborate a bit. So I grew up in post-Soviet Armenia in a family of academics and scientists. And when the war broke, suddenly everything turned over, and my parents' salary was not enough to for a normal life of a family. And there were some struggles, but over time the life evolved, things got better. But the thing that I'm very, very thankful for is that when we didn't have electricity in Yerevan in the early 90s, we were looking at the albums of great artists, and we were reading Armenian poetry. And there was so much emphasis on education that really, really helped me to get where I am. So for that, I'm very, very fortunate. Although it wasn't an affluent upbringing with opportunities and college funds to go anywhere I could, it set the right ground for me. And I learned to take every opportunity that comes my way. Every opportunity that comes my way, I say yes, and then later deal with the consequences.
I think I can say the same thing as her because every time my husband and I are almost the same, and we keep arguing about this, that, we keep saying we're not going to take more challenges, and next day we're bringing back another challenge home and another decision, a bigger challenge, a bigger project, a big thing, more and more. And we have been lucky to have all these opportunities. And the more challenges we have, we're trying to do better. And I think we're learning along the way, and it has been great. Yes, we don't have, sometimes it's a matter of priorities. Sometimes you realize that when you're doing all this, you're sacrificing other things. Probably, I don't know, I don't go to the gym. I don't have time to things like I would have liked to do. But at the end of the day, when you're in peace with yourself, you know that you're doing what you like, and you're happy, and you're challenging yourself, and you're not doing it for somebody else. You're doing it for yourself, and you feel comfortable. That's, I think, the most important. Like Nancy said, the day you realize that this is not for you, you have to change. Yes, that's the key point. When you know it, you feel it, and then you change your path. And I think it has been very challenging. I don't know how I would rate my cards and how we did, but both together. We did everything together. But I can say that we never imagined that we'll get there. And the more we take, the more it is difficult, the more we're ready for it, and the more we do. And it has been very satisfying and bringing a lot of happiness to our families and our lives.
So the way I thought about this question reminded me of maybe about 5 years ago, I was asked on a panel for women, can women have it all? And I remember I went home, and before I went to the panel, and I asked my son, my younger son, I was like, do you think women can have it? Or do you think, how would you say that about me? And he said, absolutely. He said, if you have a loving family and you do something every day that you really like, isn't that having it all? And I thought, this is all about a frame of reference. Because if you say there's all these other things, like I wish I could do this and that, and then you're always unhappy because you can't do, you'll be unhappy, right? So so then I sort of focus. It's like very simple for me. It's like, I have a great family. We have good health. I love what we do. So I felt like the hand that I've been dealt is a 10. Like how could you not want more than that? But I'd say that what I've done with that, I wouldn't give it a 10 because I personally feel like if you have all those things, you have a responsibility to try to do better and to try to do more and be better for your family and for other people. And so that's always the challenge striving thing that, at least for me, is really important. So I give a 10 and a 7.
Okay, I think I'll give can you hear me? Yeah. I think I can give myself a 7 for getting the cards and 8 where I am. And I have similar reasons as Lilith. I'm 10 years older than her, so I grew up actually not post-Soviet. I grew up during the Soviet era. And one of the panelists yesterday, we were discussing about this educational system, and I feel like the way we were taught was completely different the way people in US and other countries, the discussions, the conversations, the open-mindedness. We were taught, okay, this is something you have to study, go by heart, and tell the teacher that's it. No creativity, no out-of-box thinking. And I feel like that because you're from age 1 to 20, that's the age I've been in Armenia, I've been born and raised there, that's a very crucial time for your growth. educational growth, and I feel like there was something missing in the Soviet at the time. But at the same time, I think because there were lots of things that were scarce, there were no electricity, I was studying under candlelight for my applied math classes in the university. I started there, and then I transferred to University of Hawaii. So I feel like for me, the perseverance and always finding the ways to get where you want, I think that helped me, because if I wasn't grown up in that area, probably I would be different. So, and why I'm giving myself 8, not 10, I feel like there are lots of things I can still do. Like, I always regret having just one kid. I have one 18 years old. Obviously, I don't want to have another one now, but I always regret because I put the career first, but at the same time, I was trying to balance it out. Like, I didn't go to the executive position yet because I wanted to be next to my son. I wanted to make sure he's successful in high school. After maybe he goes to college, maybe I'll make the decision. But I feel like there are ways for me to grow both in the house as well as professionally, and that's why I'm giving myself 8.
Yeah. I think, the number, I'm much more interested in the second number than the first, but it was when I think I've been dealt an 8. Certainly I had a great, when I was a teenager, you would have asked me this and I would have said, it's a 4, I'm suffering so much, nobody understands me, we didn't have enough money and I don't have enough friends and blah, but it's like, it's all relative, and you grow up and you travel and you see the world and you feel like, oh man, I'm very, very blessed, right? And so, of course, the number gets higher as you grow and learn and expose yourself to more people. And, being in Armenia, being blessed to be able to go to Armenia many times, there's nothing like that to give you the perspective as like, wow, you're just like me, but the circumstances are completely different, especially in villages and things. And it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. Actually, I had, a 10. I didn't even know it. I was bemoaning all that we didn't have or something like that. And I didn't know what I did have. And Nancy's right about loving parents. And I was, Mary Lou and Peg are raising the kids in an environment of trust. And I didn't know until I was older that I was raised in an environment of trust. I sort of just took for granted that even when my parents didn't agree with my decisions, that, they trusted me. And you think they liked the idea of film school? I mean, my parents were very practical, and this was a ridiculous idea. But, but in terms of dealing the hand, I think I dealt it. I think I'm saying in terms of playing the hand, I think I played it more as a 9, higher than I was dealt, because financial independence is a wonderful thing. Like, I didn't have to, I just worked. The minute I was legal and old enough to work and earn money, I started working and earning money. We did not have a lot of money. And what we did have, we needed, especially my dad was ordained a priest later in life. We had a grocery business up to that point. And when he was ordained, that was sort of the end of the money for a long time. It wasn't just that his salary was out. We had to close a business, and the business that had been making our money was suddenly gone. And because he couldn't do both jobs. And all of a sudden we took a financial turn from, that was, and I was like, I'm going to work as much as I can. But storing up that money, I never had to depend on anybody for school. And basically I got scholarships, and I fought, and I paid for school myself, and paying for school yourself means you can major in what you want. And, you can it was like the great thing about paying your own way is you make your own choices and you're not dependent. I mean, I have friends who had to major in what they majored in because their parents said, we won't pay for your school unless you become a lawyer, a doctor, or whatever it is. And so I paid my own way through film school, and that was an important choice, obviously, that very few people understood. I think the other reason I think that the way you play it is almost more important than what you're dealt, because people come from a range of circumstances, but the choices you make and what I was saying earlier about, don't take your career as you're a victim of it and being sort of carried along it. I mean, I know I'm blessed. Yes, I say, I worked, that was all me. Well, I had the resources to be able to find jobs, get people to hire me, use my network, that kind of thing. That you play your cards, but you don't play them alone, right? Mm-hmm. Just because you're in charge of your own career and you're in charge of your own destiny, you have to use all the tools at your disposal, all the people in your network, your friends, your family, everybody to help you along and cheer you on and give you that advice and just including them in your circle. That's how you play those cards. And so I think that, taking an active role in your own career, your own development, rather than waiting for like, well, nobody hired me, I didn't get the job, wah, wah, wah. Like, no, you go after it, you figure it out, and take a job that's not the one you exactly wanted, because you'll be working and you'll get a resume builder, and you'll you'll learn something from it. So I think it's about, play whatever it is, but play it all the way and use all your resources to play it, and that'll get you there. But yes, of course, I'm not going to be a 10 either in how I played it, because I'm never doing enough. And I think of changing we sit next to Mary Lou and it's like, oh, nobody's doing enough, so yeah.
Thank you. So we'll open it up for Q&A. Yeah.
First of all, a big hand for the most interesting of the panels for the morning, Christine. And I want to also say that Christine Sousa is one of our Pride presidents of the San Francisco affiliate, and we do very often try to emulate some of the speed that they work in because of the place that they're in and their science and their technology, and we kind of feel like, oh, they've done it. Well, they actually inspire many of the other affiliates to do what they do. I want to thank each and every one of the panelists, and you never said how did you say what rating you would give yourself? Why don't you say that? And then what I'd like to do is actually take we have around now a 20-minute restroom break and meet and greet, and then you can just feel free to walk out, walk in, and then we have to come back in for the next panel. So I want to hear how Christine would rate herself before we break up after that.
I have big aspirations for Q&A, but I don't have my watch. I didn't know how we went over. I'm so sorry. I got caught up in the moment. Sorry. Okay, my rating. So, I would give myself a really high rating in terms of the cards that I was dealt. I was born into a kick-butt family with a wide range of perspectives, right? First generation, American-born. And my parents fought hard to make sure that they, to the extent that they had the ability to give us certain cards, that we were given a good hand to play. To the extent that they could put us in the right schools, surround us around the proper network, take us to the right pharmacy conferences or nutrition conferences or other entrepreneurship endeavors that our family had participated in. And so that I would rate very high. And how I dealt with it, I'm still playing the game, but to the extent that I can, I try to, play the best game that I can in that day, in that 15-minute chunk. I try not to make the right decision. I sit in meetings all day long where the guys are whiteboarding the right go-to-market strategy and the right price point and the right thing. And I'm like, forget that. You guys have fun trying to figure out what's right. I'm just going to not mess it up, and I'm not going to do it wrong. And so that gives me the opportunity to be nimble and play the best game that I can play for that day.
Thank you. Yes, well, they say very well-behaved women never really make history, so keep doing what you're doing. and leave that behavior to the men. You make the right decisions. We are going to take a break, but before the panel leaves, before everybody swarms the panel, we want a picture of the panelists, so if you can stand and have the photographer take the picture, and you are free to take your breaks and meet and greet after she's done with the official picture.